Hello everyone, and welcome to Grand Theft Auto 5 for PC. Just get the game loaded up and then we can get set. Just so we're going to start by explaining what's going to be going on today's stream. We're going to split the stream into two halves. The first half of the stream is going to be me going through the port, explaining how good I think the port is, and just going through general things I've been reading online about it. Just, you know, sort of what's been going on, and just looking at some of the issues people have been finding. Turn the radio off. Some of the issues that people have been finding with the game, and then in the second half we're just going to do some gameplay. We're just going to have a laugh and enjoy the game. If you have any questions about the game or anything that you want to tell me about the stream, I am monitoring chat during this, so please do let me know. With that, let's get right into this. Yeah. So, this, everybody, is GTA 5 running on PC. Now, just to give you some information about the PC this is running on before I start going on about my experiences with the port. This is a computer that's running an FX 6300, and it's also running a GTX 970, an EVGA superclocked GTX 970. Now, if you do first thing I will say is that if you do experience some lag during the stream, it's not the game's fault. It's because the CPU doesn't really have enough power to be streaming this at the same time as playing it. But that lag that you may see isn't actually present in the game when you are not trying to run a streaming setup at the same time. So I do apologise for that. I mean, I could turn the graphic settings down a bit, but you know, that would break the stream, so we won't. It should not lag too much, I hope. If it is lagging too much and it does need changing, do let me know and we can fix it. Okay, so let's start with just the basic port. Installing the game, I had the disc version. 7 discs. It takes about an hour to an hour and a half to install off the discs, obviously depending on the speed of the drive. There is after that a 5 gig patch. Now on my internet that should have taken about 5 minutes. That took about half an hour because at this period Rockstar servers seem to be quite full of people, and they do seem to be struggling to offer good download speeds for patches and stuff for the game. So that is something to note, especially if you're looking at buying the game digitally. Now, in terms of buying the game digitally, Steam servers are holding up fine from what I can gather. However, there is a 300 meg patch that has to be done through Rockstar Social Club that is having the same issues as I had with the 5 gig patch that I downloaded for the game. Other than that, I mean, installing it hasn't been too bad. Some people have had issues launching it, but most of the issues, especially ones revolving around Windows usernames, have now been patched. So the game should install okay, and you should be able to get into it well enough. In terms of the experience of doing it, it's fine. You do need a Rockstar Social Club account even if you buy it on Steam. That's more so GTA Online will work than anything. When you get into the game, obviously the first thing I did was went into the settings menu. Now, this is currently running on the Nvidia recommended settings, and when I'm not streaming it's getting an average of around 50-55 FPS according to the Fraps benchmark I've been running on it. It's not great, you really do want to keep it at 60. But Nvidia does recommend that this card runs at very high, and this game does seem to suffer quite a bit when there's CPU power missing, which I know my FX has got a problem with. So if you have a better CPU in a 970, you are likely to get better results from this. But I mean, what I will say right now is it's a good port. If we just go out of this into the options menu here, I'll show you for the option menu, show you the settings this is currently running at. Now this is probably running about 25 FPS at the minute. I can tell it's jumping a bit. So I might change the second half of the stream, but just so I can show you what the port's like. This is the the normal graphics options menu. Obviously you've got your DirectX limits. This is currently running in windowed board list. That's just for the stream to work. Other than that, you have all these different types of AA. FXAA is the one that I'm using because NVIDIA's TXAA hasn't been enabled in the game yet, which is sort of annoying because this NVIDIA TXAA actually runs better on the NVIDIA cards. Now this setting here, VSync, this is turned on by default. I've turned this off because it doesn't really do a lot. It just caps your frame rate to 60. And this game has a lot of tearing. I mean, like a lot of just generally visible tearing, not like ridiculous where the map splits in half or anything, but the tearing in it is visible. You can see that the game is splitting images slightly as you're just driving around and stuff. This is a big issue, but it's not fully solved by VSync unless you run the game at its lowest settings, so you can guarantee a stable at 120 FPS, so when it caps to 60 it's working. So it's sort of a bit iffy, VSync, but the one thing I will say about VSync is that it does, and in this game especially, it introduces a noticeable amount of input lag, which is why I've turned it off. I'll put up with the tearing, but it would be nice if there was a way to get around this. I mean, anyone with a FreeSync or G-Sync monitor, lucky sods, will be able to get around this issue well. Next we have population density, population variety, and distance scaling. Distance scaling I believe is render distance. These two are just about population, how many people are about and stuff. I set these to the max because that's what's recommended, but it really does help because it just adds to the experience. Texture quality here, very high. I don't know whether that goes high. Okay, that doesn't go any higher, so very high is the highest texture quality that you can run at. High looks fine, which is generally what I decide to run the game at. Normal, unless you've got a lower end card, I probably wouldn't recommend running on normal because the game does start to lose quality quite a bit. Shader quality and shadow quality, again, very high on here, but these are like just the area and just what shadows and like the sky and stuff, how vibrant and detailed all that will look. And it's iffy, but I think it's quite good if I'm honest. And I've got them on, obviously it's set to set them to very high as well. They can be set to ultra. So that's normal, high, very high and ultra for those. And they don't seem to affect frame rate as much. Reflection quality as well as reflections in the water. These three here don't seem to affect frame rates very much. When I knock this down, I can generally get around 10 FPS more out of the game. So texture quality is definitely something that is affecting the frame rate, along with distance scaling. These two not so much. Distance scaling affects it more. These three not so much. So leaving these on very high to get a better visual experience is probably good. Though in certain areas I have found that reflection quality and shadow quality, especially like in the middle of the city, where there's like reflections off the windows, and especially when it's raining, they can have some sort of effect. Water quality is self-explanatory. This is on very high on here, and I will admit the water in this game looks gorgeous. It's really well textured when you put speedboats across it and stuff. I was really impressed with the water quality. I will try and show you that at some point during this. Grass quality is less about the quality of the grass and more about the density of the grass. I don't know whether you were looking at the difference between the Xbox One and PS4 versions, but you'd often find that the PS4 version had slightly more grass. Well, this is basically that, and it's basically how much foliage is around on the ground. Soft shadows, I'm using the NVIDIA specific one here. Other than that, I wouldn't recommend running them on very soft because they do look sort of out of place. But this NVIDIA technology does a really good job of making all the shadows look realistic and stuff. I've been very impressed with that. Post FX, again, that has a high impact on frame rate, but it just looks so good with explosions and stuff, so I decided to leave that on, especially for the stream. Motion blur, obviously it's 0. You don't want to play with motion blur. It's just not realistic enough. It's just a visual effect in games, and I don't like it personally, so that's off. And then you've got in-game depth of field effects, you obviously want them on, and anisotropic filtering, I've got 16 times here. Probably should knock that down to 8 times, but again, it's not too bad. Ambient occlusion on and tessellation on normal. So these are just like, this doesn't have that higher effect on frame rate, this doesn't. Tessellation seems to have a higher effect on frame rate. So like, if you are struggling for frame rate, the first sliders I'd try messing with would be distance scaling, texture quality, maybe shadow quality if you're getting problems in the city. Particles quality is a big one. Maybe turning this soft shadows processing and the post effects down, and making sure your tessellation's down, and that in theory should be able to get you to a stable 60 FPS when playing and not streaming on just about any setup. I mean, I've heard that a lot of people with lower end setups have had some issues getting the game running, but they haven't had any problems with the frame rates or anything, and generally the port is quite good there. Something else I was very impressed with, especially after... Well, actually, we'll just have a look at the advanced graphics first. Long shadows, extended distance scaling and stuff. These are on half. If I put these on full, it like destroys the frame rate, so they'll stay as they are. But all of that is, yeah, again, these two here are something definitely to look at if you're having FPS problems while playing the game. And they, you know, and this high detail offline, if you like above, will also have a decent effect, especially when you lower to the ground. Like further up and you can see less of the ground, but as you come lower down there's quite a high FPS drop on that. So yeah, overall when I'm not streaming it runs well. I am getting a stable 60 FPS off this game, which is something that really pleases me because I like my 60 FPS gaming, and that was something that really annoyed me when I played the PS4 version. I mean, I have finished this game, I finished the story on PS4, which is why I haven't played a lot of it on here before doing the stream, to give my impressions about the game in the second half, because I have already finished the game and played a few hours of online and stuff on PS4. So I'll give you my impressions of the game, because the actual overall game is the same. This first part has to be important to the PC perspective of it. So yeah, it runs well, and something, especially after Watch Dogs, I don't know whether any of you saw Watch Dogs, but I'll just drive around for a bit and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. There's very little texture popping in this game. Like, very little. Like, you'll see little small bits where the textures are just sort of like popping in, and like little bits of the textures popping in. Like Watch Dogs had things like traffic lights popping when you came up to them and stuff, and this is a much better port than Watch Dogs was, you know. And the texture popping is something, it's just not immersive, it just doesn't give a good experience. So having so little texture popping is actually a really good achievement by Rockstar, and I have to say I am very, very impressed with their implementation and the way that they've managed to reduce texture popping. Even if there is a lot of text without VSync on, the reduction in texture popping is really good, and I have been very impressed with that. So yeah, something else that I want to mention that I've really liked about this game so far is the integration of the keyboard and mouse and the controllers. Now, a lot of games you'll find that when you want to switch, you have to go into the options menu and select which input you want to use. I mean, you can probably tell right now I'm using a controller. You have to select what input you want to use. In this game, you don't have to, and it's really to its advantage. I mean, I don't know if any of you have seen like the tutorial section of this game, the opening segment before where Michael gets buried before we get brought out. That's all I'm going to spoil about that. But I struggled with that section on PS4, and on PC with the keyboard and mouse I didn't. The keyboard and mouse controls work very well, and they do their job properly. But one thing I will say, and now I'm using keyboard and mouse, is that in cars you will probably want to be using a controller, because the controller experience on the cars is just better than trying to drive with WASD. But I mean, that's the same in any game that involves driving. So what I quite like is that you can just switch instantly between controller and keyboard and mouse, literally just by pressing a button. So now I've got out of the car and I'm walking around, I'm using keyboard and mouse. All I had to do was put my hand back onto my keyboard and mouse, press W, and it would automatically switch to the keyboard and mouse. And also any button prompts that now appear on the screen will also appear in keyboard and mouse. And all I have to do if I want to use the controller again is pick up the controller, push the analog stick forward or press a button on the controller, and it will immediately start using the controller, and it's completely seamless. And it's something that enough games don't do, but I really appreciate it when a game does, because it adds to the experience and it makes it a lot easier for you to choose your control method, especially in a game like this where there's so many different aspects to it. You can do so many different things in the game. Having the option to switch between input methods quickly and easily so that you can choose the best input method for what you are currently doing is an excellent choice, and definitely something that shows signs of how good the port is. I mean, it's not perfect. As I said, there's been some launch problems, like some install problems and stuff that some people have been having. Some people have been struggling to get the game to install initially, or to do the 300 meg patch at all due to Windows issues. Most of that has been patched, but do be wary about that. It is a Rockstar issue. They, as far as I know, have patched most of it, but I wouldn't rely on it, what they said, completely to be the truth. Just putting that out there. So,
are you serious?
Also, the digital download of the game, it's about 60 gig. So if you've got slow internet, it will take its time for you to download. You won't be able to download it instantly. It is a very big download, and you also need to make sure you've got enough space on the hard drive for that. But I mean, especially if you're buying it from Rockstar, if you buy it from Steam, other than the patch, you should be alright. Buy it from Rockstar, you will struggle even if you have fast internet, because their servers are tanking hard today. Download speeds on there, even with fast internet, I mean, my internet's about 80 megabits a second. Even with that, I was only getting like 400 kilobytes on their servers. So their servers are tanking really hard today. So if you were planning on buying it digitally, I'd recommend getting it off Steam, because the less time you have to spend downloading from Rockstar Social Club servers at the minute, the better. I mean, also it will support Steam Cloud as well if you buy it on Steam. The boxed version only supports Rockstar Social Club. I mean, the main issue I have with the game is the tearing. That's it. Other than that, it's a very good port, and I'm very impressed with what Rockstar have done with it. Just by doing some research around the internet and stuff, I have noticed that some people have been having some issues with the game options, where when they have to restart the game for options, they'll restart the game and it hasn't saved the options they set. I haven't personally had this issue, but it's just a heads up that some people may experience it. Just a heads up as well, to try and make sure you get the best experience out of the game. If you do decide to get it, make sure you download the latest NVIDIA or AMD. They're full release NVIDIA drivers, or the latest beta AMD drivers, and they have the latest optimizations from both companies for this game. That should make your game more stable, improve the FPS. If you've got the SLI and Crossfire, bring better support for that and stuff into the game. So definitely make sure you have your latest graphics card drivers. People using onboard graphics, Intel onboard graphics, won't run the game very well, and there's no optimization. People running AMD onboard graphics on like an APU or something, the ATI drivers are the ones that you need to download. They're the same ones that are used for the full R9 and R7 line of AMD desktop GPUs. So yeah, overall I'm very impressed with the port. It's a lot better than the port for GTA 4, a lot better than the port for Max Payne 3, if I'm going to be honest with you, and overall a lot better than a lot of the ports I've seen for PC games recently. I mean, Watch Dogs port was a bit naff, and Unity's port, as you saw on the channel, is a bit naff, and overall it's just not very good, and there's been a lot of bad ports, so it's refreshing to see that Rockstar have put the effort in. I know it was delayed a couple of times, but the fact that they have put the effort in to make a decent port is something really impressive, and something that I'm really happy that they took the time to do. What we will do now quickly is just go through the rest of the options menu. So if we just have a look here, we'll just go back into the settings. There's your gamepad, which is just a selection of controls. You can't change these. This is your keyboard and mouse controls, but you can also do complete key rebindings here. So the whole game is completely rebindable, which is really good because it means that you can choose how you want to run the game and what controls fit best for you, especially if you're using keyboard and mouse, especially for car driving. If you struggle with using the default layout buttons, you can change all of them in the options menu, and there doesn't seem to be a lot in here that's double bound. Context action and stuff is double bound, but there's not a lot that's double bound. I haven't found a button yet that I have to press once to do something and twice to do something, like for example on the console version or using a gamepad on this, you double press A to start running once you're pointing in a direction. In this the key shift, obviously, like most PC games, but it's all split, it's all completely separated, which is good because it gives the option for the player to choose exactly how they want to play the game and exactly what keys and other types of like mouse clicks and stuff, exactly what they want to use for the game in their own way. Now I think what we're going to do here is just head to the gun store in the background, because I think we've gone through most of the settings. Yeah, I mean, there's push to talk and subtitles and stuff like that. We're just going to head to the gun store so we can try and do some cool stuff in the aftermath of this, like in the second part of the stream. But I just want to talk about the port a bit more, really. I mean, it's very impressive. Load times on an SSD are really good, especially compared to the console version, especially after playing the PS4 version. On my SSD, I've been really impressed with the load times for this, to the point where you probably couldn't go back and play the PS4 version. I was downscaling it for 4K earlier as well, but the reflections and everything in this game, they just look gorgeous. They really do. It is a really, really beautiful game, and they have definitely upgraded the texture resolution and the lighting effects and stuff for this version of the game, which is nice to see because they are showing a knowledge that the PC version of this game, that PCs are more powerful than the consoles and will be able to do a better job of running the game than the consoles will, which is definitely something that has to be considered. There's a lot of devs that won't do this, and it's disappointing.
Hey, big guy, what looks good?
Because it feels like they just don't care enough about the PC versions of their games sometimes, and really the PC versions are often the best versions, and obviously PCs are a way that you can just better play games. And I know it's going to be controversial, but it really is something that developers don't think about enough, and that does disappoint me with developers. So I'm glad to see that Rockstar have paid enough attention here to do this. Let's just select my assault rifle. I don't know what key it will be on. I probably can't do it in here. No, let's go into the firing range. So no, the particle effects and everything in this game look gorgeous, especially when you have the settings turned up to the correct level. So I am very impressed by that, and I will say that it is definitely something that should be considered when thinking about this game. In fact, they have done a good job, even though it's been delayed. They have done a good job, and it is good. The online seems to be working fine so far. Again, there's sometimes a bit of lag getting into the servers and stuff, but it is working. You are able to hook up with friends. It's not broken or anything. All the heists and everything are available. They've also added an extended soundtrack into this game over the console version, which is quite nice. So the PC version has more licensed music in it, which is why I can't play it on stream. But the PC version has more licensed music in it, which is definitely something that is nice, because actually some of the radio stations really are quite good, and it is nice to be able to listen to them while driving along trying to complete quests and stuff. Night effects in this game are also quite good. I mean, I'll show you the headlights on this car. I think the headlights at the front are smashed, but yeah. Something else that's been carried over from the next gen version is also first person mode. This is another complaint I do have with the game, unfortunately. The FOV in first person mode is the highest FOV is the same as the console versions. It's not too bad, but it is slightly too low, really, for a PC game, and it does give me a bit of motion sickness when I'm in first person for too long because of how much closer I sit to the screen than I do on my TV screen. So it would be nice to see Rockstar patch that. I mean, it's not the end of the world, and lots of you won't have an issue with it, but it is something to consider if you do generally get like nauseous and sick and stuff from lower FOVs. It's definitely something to think about, because this game definitely does suffer from having low first person FOV if you're thinking about trying to play the game in its first person mode. I mean, there's not really a lot else to say about the port. It's very good. I will keep repeating this because it's the truth. It's a very good PC port. It handles itself very well, and obviously when I'm not streaming, it runs well. Once you tweak the graphic settings, and they will take a lot of tweaking, it does take some time to get it the way you want it. You will easily hit averages and minimums of 60 FPS on this game on just about any system, and I reckon the recommended system specs probably are slightly low for 1080p 60, but they're not far off from what I've been seeing online. So definitely do consider it if you're worried about performance. Don't be. I reckon you will be able to run this at a decent frame rate, at a decent looking resolution, whatever sort of PC you've got. Maybe not like laptops and stuff, but like if it's a gaming PC and it does have, and it was designed for games, so it has some sort of gaming graphics card in it, whether it's an APU or whether it's a like actual dedicated graphics card, it is definitely going to run, and it's going to run decently well. It will run at least 30 FPS, it will look decent, you won't experience too many frame drops on it. So I'm very impressed with the port actually. Rockstar have done a very good job of it, surprisingly, and I'm glad that the PC community in the end put trust into them. What I actually want to do now, as part of this port section and not the gameplay section, is part this up here. I don't know how to get into this, so I am just going to have a look. But in this version of the game, there is a director mode, and it's basically a new added section into the game that, here we go, it'll be in the Rockstar editor at the end, and it basically allows you to, here we go, we'll enter the Rockstar editor. So it basically allows you to take projects like this. Here we go. I'll show you how it works, because this is quite cool. Okay, so create a new project. Okay, so we have to do gameplay clips. So the way you record gameplay clips is you go into the world, and I mean, this isn't actually director mode. This is just the editor that's built in, and it's a more powerful editor. But this is just the editor that's built in. I don't know exactly how you get into the director mode, so I might have a look at that, and we'll over the break, and we'll do that in the second part of the stream. But it might not be the easiest thing to get to, but basically what you do is if you hit F1, it will say recording, and it will start recording a gameplay clip. So here it's recording me just driving around and being a bit of a lunatic. And then if I press F1 again, it'll stop the recording and save the clip. Now what I can do is if I get out the car with my gun, and I just sort of hit F1 again, and I don't know, shoot a bit. We'll shoot this guy in his car. Like that. There you go. And then what you can do is if you hit F1 again, and then you go into here, and you go into the Rockstar editor. I'm just going to show you how it works. This won't actually be. If you create a new project and click yes, you can then add a clip, and you can add the clips that you've recorded here, and it's like a cut down version of Premiere, and basically it allows you to add sound and effects and stuff between your clips, and you can duplicate your clips and add them in different places, and it's basically, I mean, and you can add the radio tracks from the game in. So if we go on to here, these are the tracks you've got that are available. I don't know whether any of these are the actual licensed ones, or whether these are the ones that weren't brought licensed, because I reckon there is some more in here that aren't here. But you can add the music clip in like that, and if you preview it, and obviously if you click here, you can preview the track that you selected and actually create the clip. I mean, and here we go. If we just preview it, it won't be very good, but it's what the gameplay we recorded with the music over the top of it, and it basically allows you to do this all in game and then take it out of game and export it to YouTube and onto your hard drive and stuff. Director mode is only available when story mode is running. Okay, so I have to go off this. I have to go back into story mode just to get story mode running, and then I'll try and show you the director mode. Okay, we'll just let it load story mode. It's obviously closed story mode while I've been in the editor, which is why that won't work. So when you go into the editor, it closes story mode and it loads up the editor with the clips that you've recorded in story mode. The editor can also be used with clips that are recorded in GTA Online as well, using F1. I think the maximum recording time for the clips in game is 60 seconds though, which is a bit iffy. Obviously the loading times are going to be more now, because it's got to pull the streams, obviously pulling the data off the hard drive as well. So don't take these load times as what the load times normally are on the SSD.
Couldn't bring myself to do it.
So now story mode's running. If we go out of this and back into the Rockstar editor, now story mode is running. We can go into director's mode here. So we'll show you around director mode and show you what director mode is. This is exclusive to the PC version. It's not in like the PS4 version or anything, and it's basically a way that will allow you to create a story with music and everything on it. So if I go actors, we haven't unlocked any of the animals yet. We haven't unlocked a lot because obviously we haven't discovered a lot of it. So I probably haven't unlocked any of the military. You can put, here we go, we've unlocked some of the military. So you can put your online characters in it and some of the heist characters into it. Emergency services, you can put some of the gangs and other people into it, some of the like transport people in it. So you could be directing round a fireman, for example, or a trucker. We'll do the trucker. Yep. So if we select the trucker as the person that we're going to be casting, what we're able to do is have complete control over the camera. So now if I do this here, I'm able to go around and we're able to record parts of it. But what director mode allows you to do is it allows you
Shit my damn pants.
What director mode allows you to do is it allows you to take control of any character, so that you can record parts of the game using any character and record what's going on using any of the game's characters once you've met them. So yeah, that's director mode, and then if you go out of it and then go back into the Rockstar editor, and obviously now we can't go back into director mode, but it's basically a way of recording with the different characters and then using the different characters. So now obviously that's director mode at the bottom now. Obviously we'll return to the trailer now for director mode, and we can record parts of gameplay with other characters, and then we can put all of this together. We can have a look at the recently used, we can have a look at the settings for it, so we can change the time of day, whether the bullets explode, whether we can put low gravity on, we can do all sorts. And then you can basically like create alien films, you can do all sorts with it. If we enter director mode here, again this is going to do the same thing, but it's really easy to exit out of, and you just select it like you select the character. So you just select it like you select the character. We'll just go back into the game now. We'll exit director's mode, and we'll just go back into the game. Okay, so that's basically the port with all the additional features and everything that the port involves. What I'm now going to do is I'm just going to put the stream onto a break. I'm going to reset the graphic settings on the game so it runs slightly better when we come to actually doing the gameplay segment, and then I'll be back in about 5 minutes, and we will talk about the game, what the game's like, and we will do some like informative, and we'll explain the game, and we'll just have a laugh doing some gameplay. We'll go and steal a jet or something. So yes, we will be back shortly.